Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Dan Eastburn here, Product Manager for GitLab Runner. Hey, so in today's video I want to spend a few minutes chatting about the GitLab Runner product vision and direction. Really the goal is to provide a bit more context in terms of the content that you see on our GitLab Runner direction page, which is available here on about.gitlab.com/direction/verify/runner. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the presentation. So the first just to set the stage, just kind of talk a bit about how at GitLab we've defined our strategic planning cadence. So in GitLab, we have mission, vision, and strategy. For us, a mission is 30 years, vision is 10, and strategy is 3. And so I think it's helpful for us as we go into the next couple of slides to kind of understand the timelines that we're thinking about as we talk about that long-term product vision, as we talk about the GitLab Runner vision, how it aligns to that long-term product vision. And then as we think about and talk about our near-term 3-year strategy. So how does the GitLab Runner vision align with the GitLab product vision, right? So as defined today, the GitLab product vision is to replace DevOps tools chains with a single application pre-configured to work by default across the DevOps lifecycle. And so when we're thinking about that vision for the GitLab product, we're thinking about how does the runner play into that? What does the runner have to do in order to enable that vision, right? For the GitLab Runner, we support GitLab.com. We are the engine that makes GitLab CI and GitLab.com work, but we're also the engine that customers use and deploy if they're self-managing their own GitLab instances or if they're self-managing their own runners. And so the vision for Runner, in order to enable that GitLab product vision over the next 10 years, our goal is to provide DevOps teams a build agent that works seamlessly on tomorrow's market-leading computing platforms and the tools to eliminate CI build fleet operational complexity at enterprise scale. That's the vision. And we'll talk about what that means and how we kind of came up with that and what that means in terms of the context of our near-term investment and our long-term strategy, as well as vision for GitLab Runner. So this next slide is basically setting the stage in terms of giving you, the viewer, and everyone that's interested in this, sort of an understanding of the current GitLab Runner technology landscape. So at a high level, and I'm not trying to cover every single thing, but just to give you a smattering of information, this is the current technology landscape that the GitLab Runner supports. From an architectural perspective, we support multiple compute architectures: ARM, x86-64 AMD Intel, IBM Z with S390X. From an operating system perspective, obviously, we support big 3 operating systems: Linux, Windows, Mac OS, and of course under Linux variants, different distributions of Linux, right? And then from an executive perspective, i.e. the execution engine that is the runner, you can see we support a multiple number of different executives today, right? Kubernetes, Docker Machine, PowerShell, Shell, SSH, and our very own custom executor, which gives you the flexibility to use the runner in environments where we don't have a native executor build, and then some other executors as well, Parallels and VirtualBox, right? So multiple architectures, multiple operating systems, multiple executors, and then finally multiple major container platforms, right? We support Amazon ECS, Amazon EKS, right? Fargate from AWS, Red Hat OpenShift, GKE, AKS. Again, so at a high level, today, table stakes in terms of the runner technology landscape, in terms of all of the different architectures or platforms that we have to ensure the GitLab Runner works seamlessly on. This is a kind of a snapshot of that kind of landscape. And this landscape, as you will see in the subsequent slides, it's informing how we're thinking about the future evolution in the marketplace and how we're thinking about future investment in terms of the GitLab Runner roadmap and product strategy, right? And so what's going to happen in the next 5 years? What are we thinking will happen from the technology landscape perspective in the next 5 and beyond, and how does that inform our GitLab product strategy, our GitLab vision? Right. So at a high level from an operating systems perspective, and as we're putting together the slide, we're thinking in the future, we're thinking about adding more details so as to provide a bit more context. Right. From operating perspective, Linux, Mac OS, Windows, we all know they're mature in the marketplace. Linux has been around since 1991, Mac OS, different time frame, Windows obviously, and Windows Server, obviously, been around for quite some time. We expect and we forecast that these three major operating systems, being considered mature, will continue to have a significant market presence over the next 5 years. We don't see a significant change in that sort of landscape. From an architecture perspective, market forecasters and industry analysts are saying that x64, there's declining market share for x64 on personal computers. We don't necessarily see that having a significant impact in terms of what we have to support yet from a GitLab Runner perspective. So something that is noted. But again, we expect x64 to be relevant in the market for the next 5 to 10 years, even though it has declining market share for personal computers, as the rise of risk, as you can see in the quadrant below, continues to gain share in the market. ARC64 from ARM, as well as the new Apple M1 chipsets, right? We expect that to continue to increase share in the marketplace. We expect that the Apple M1 chips that were released in 2020, in terms of the MacBooks and MacBook Pros, we'll continue to see growth in terms of their adoption in the next 3 years in terms of Apple laptops, and of course, and I would expect Apple servers as well. And then, entry sort of that maturity phase in 2024, 2025, right? So from an architecture and operating system perspective, at a high level, there will be changes in the market, but we can see that there's evolution in the marketplace in terms of ARM gaining more market share. But at a high level, we expect that from a runner perspective, we'll have to continue to support very well this architecture, the computing architecture, and this operating system landscape over the next 5 years. And then from a container platform perspective, right now, as of today, all eyes are on Kubernetes. It's got the most market traction. We think that's where the market will continue to invest and where things are heading, and that will be the technology of choice for the next 5 years. Obviously, we have to be open to change, as we all know that innovations and disruptions can happen in the computing industry at any time. But as of right now, making that statement, yes, we think Kubernetes, we believe Kubernetes will be relevant in the marketplace for the next 5 years. These major container platforms that we support today, from ECS all the way through, Red Hat OpenShift, Google, Azure, we expect that there will be shifts in terms of adoption, market share wins and losses. But generally speaking, within the next 5 years, our expectation is that these players will continue to be relevant in the marketplace in terms of container platforms, right? And that our customers will continue to choose solutions, one of the solutions here, in terms of their Kubernetes offerings. And so from a runner perspective, this is kind of what we're thinking about. We'll have to ensure that we support very well over the next 5 years. So that's the wrap up. Operating systems, no major change. Obviously, different variants of Linux will be out there, and different life cycles for those. But generally speaking, operating systems and these architectures and these container platforms is what we expect to be relevant and what we expect to have to continue to support over the next 5 years. So now, what does that mean from a runner near-term strategy perspective? What are we thinking about doing in terms of near-term strategy, near-term themes for the runner on our way to that vision, right? That vision of being able to provide DevOps teams that build agents that work seamlessly on tomorrow's market-leading compute platforms, right? And the tools to eliminate operational complexity, right? And so in 2021, some of the major themes that we have on the docket are as follows: security, a really basic table stakes theme. We have to continue to enhance our security footprint, because by ensuring that we have the right security foundation allows us to unlock that enterprise management goal, right? And so security is going to be a major theme for us in 2021. And the other major theme around enterprise management is the first pillar, if you will, on that journey towards seamless operation or frictionless operation or zero operation, is what we're calling that new runner admin view in our GitLab UI. And there's some slides later on where we talk a bit more about that. So enterprise management, a major theme for us in 2021. The other theme for us in 2021 around self-managing runners at scale is Runner's auto-scaling Kubernetes platforms. In 13.7, we released a Runner operator for Red Hat OpenShift and the Red Hat OpenShift Operator Hub. So in 2021, we'll be moving that operator to GA. And then we'll continue to invest in the evolution of our Runner's Kubernetes Executor. That's a key pillar for us, ensuring that the Runner Kubernetes Executor continues to mature, continues to be able to support Kubernetes and the various Kubernetes platforms that are out there in the marketplace. The other thing that we will be looking at as well, from a theme perspective in 2021, is Runner auto-scaling on public cloud provider virtual machines, because we recognize that not all of our customers are migrating or adopting Kubernetes as their platform of choice. As a matter of fact, some industrial research has suggested that the current trends are for typically medium to large enterprises being the forefront of the adopters of Kubernetes, and we can see obvious reasons for that, probably have more resources and so on. And so we can expect that over the next couple of years, those trends to continue. So maybe larger customers will be adopting Kubernetes faster than smaller customers. So from an auto-scaling perspective on public cloud providers, we have to continue to support Kubernetes, and we have to continue to support giving customers the ability to scale GitLab runners on public cloud virtual machines. And the next big theme for us in calendar year 2021 is Runner Build Cloud. First, moving our Windows runners on GitLab.com to GA, and then introducing our Mac OS Build Cloud first as beta and GA, and more interestingly, both on x64 as well as on a new Apple M1 chipset, right? And so we really think there's a really interesting opportunity for GitLab to provide something new and novel as it relates to and really kind of tying in that concept of the one DevOps platform with this Mac OS Build Cloud offering. So security, enterprise management are some of the key pillars for us that helps us think about on the journey towards getting to that 10-year vision. And then along the way, auto-scaling in Kubernetes, auto-scaling in public cloud providers, kind of like rounds out that some of the themes in support of that vision. And then 2022 and 2023, kind of if you probably all heard of the fuzzy front end, things are a bit more fuzzy right now. So in the next few months, as we revamp these slides and we continue to evolve our thinking, we might have a bit more detail, more context in terms of what we foresee in 2022 and 2023 in terms of themes. But at a high level right now, we're thinking about continuing to evolve our enterprise management capability sets, continue to invest and evolve Kubernetes Executor to ensure that we can scale the runs on various Kubernetes platforms in a seamless manner, and adding public cloud provider support for Azure Compute in terms of virtual machine auto-scaling. And for Runner Build Cloud, on the Mac OS Build Cloud, is really thinking about this feature related to automated builds. Can we have automated builds for our Mac OS Build Cloud so that customers on GitLab.com that are building for the Mac OS ecosystem can literally get to that first screen build without any setup at all, right? And so can we get to the zero setup vision for our Mac OS Build Cloud? Again, tie into that overall GitLab vision of that one application to replace the entire for the DevOps life cycle, right? And so those are the major themes that are kind of driving our 3-year strategy for GitLab Runner, right? So this is the strategic items, the items before that I mentioned here, our table stake items, making sure that we continue to support very well these container platforms with our Kubernetes offerings, these architectures, the operating systems. Again, this is table stake, this is keep the lights on, and then these themes are some of the things we're thinking about in terms of how do we continue to evolve the Runner solution set, right, to ensure that we enable that long-term vision. So now talking about enterprise management and some of the pain that we've heard from customers around enterprise management. And this is just a smattering of a few quotes from customers around what they're seeing as they are now managing larger installations of either a GitLab instance or GitLab runners, right? In some cases, hundreds of teams, hundreds of projects, hundreds of runs, and so on, right? As one customer says, hey, I need an easy way to determine and measure a group inheritance. Another customer, as a GitLab administrator, I can't find a means by which to identify the environment in which a runner is installed. Where is that runner installed at, right? It's really key questions that an administrator of something as important as your DevOps tool chain needs to be able to answer. As a GitLab administrator, it's difficult for me to find and delete all runners that are no longer active, quote unquote dead, but still show as registered either to a group or a project, right? There are very likely runners on old versions. I see 109.5.1, but we're on GitLab, 12.10. And further, the method of deploying, configuring, and managing those runners is widely different from team to team, increasing operational complexity on these teams. And so that's a smattering of some of the themes and some of the feedback we've heard from customers that have already embarked on down the path of enterprise management, of managing a build fleet at scale. And these are some of the problems we're trying to solve for as we think about that long-term vision of can we reduce operational complexity while we ensure that we can support the execution of the runner on multiple container platforms, on multiple architectures and multiple operating systems. Again, table stakes, right? Can we do so in a way that while you're doing it at scale, that management of that fleet at scale is as seamless or operationally zero operational cost as possible? And so this is just an initial mock-up of one potential evolution of that runner admin view. Here we're kind of exploring some initial ideas to help us kind of figure out capabilities or features that we may need to add along the way of solving that problem. Again, the goal is, can we get to a zero administration footprint, right? A zero operational overhead footprint is that long-term vision. And so you can see on the screen, we're thinking about, does it make sense in this view to add like some statuses, like all 9 runners, right? A count of all 9 runners, a count of crash runners, lost runners, outdated runners, and so on, right? And from within this view, add the ability for users or administrators to take proactive action, not just have this view be informational only, but be actionable. You can see here another concept view where we're thinking about, should we enable capabilities to allow an administrator to set a number of versions of a runner that can be used in the environment in terms of version offsets and so on. And so, version offsets and so on. And so that's sort of an interesting thing that we're looking at as well in terms of other features and capabilities that we may add in terms of enterprise management view. So as we get into January and February of this year, we'll be continuing to refine these markups, continue to reach out to customers and do some additional customer research, do some additional customer validation, get additional feedback in terms of new thinking along the way for us solving these administrative problems. And so just to recap, our long-term vision for the runner is ready to provide a DevOps team, that build agent that works seamlessly on tomorrow's market-leading computing platforms. And as we sort of talked about in the landscape slides, we expect that, and we talk about it quite a bit on our direction page, that there will continue to be choice in the marketplace 5-10 years from now, as there has been choice in the marketplace in the past from a computing architecture, from a computing operating system perspective, right, from a public cloud provider perspective. And so first pillar in our strategy is to ensure that we support those market-leading computing platforms for our self-managed customers, while at the same time ensuring that we provide the tool sets and the capabilities so that managing GitLab runners, managing that build fleet, there is zero, if possibly getting to that nirvana of zero operational maintenance overhead. And so this is kind of that overview, and that's for us kind of what's driving the GitLab Runner vision and direction. In a future video, we might actually get into some more tactical things, and I'm thinking we might actually do these videos depending on the feedback, maybe monthly or every 3 months. In a future video, we might actually spend some time talking a bit more tactically about the run-up roadmap, right? Hey, what's actually happening? What might actually be developed in the next release or delivered, so in the next release from a features and capabilities perspective. So talking more tactically about the near-term roadmap and things that might actually be delivered, as well as depending on how things change and our thoughts about this vision, the strategy, the underlying strategy, and some of the near-term changes, how all of those things may have evolved since this first video. So with that said, that's a wrap. That's all we've covered today. Basically, that overview of the Runner Direction page. As always, if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to tag me on an issue. theeastman@gitlab.com is my email address. And I look forward to chatting with you next time. Have a good day. Cheers.